Today, I want to talk about how to move on from your past relationship, how to move on from your first love, how to move on from your failed marriage, how to move on from your failed love relationship, how to move on from your relationship, the past relationship. Yes, this topic has been prompted because a lot of people recently have had reason to contact me to explain what they've been through or what they are going through as a result of a relationship that couldn't go on. And for those that were unfortunate to fall out of their marriage relationships and all that, the kind of trauma they've been through, and some of them are still going through. And for those that have been disappointed, maybe you have been engaged to someone all of a sudden for no clear reason enough. Someone comes saying, I don't think we can carry on with this. I'm of the opinion that we should just end it up. And then a relationship of some weeks or some months or some years comes crashing, just like pack of cards. And so, having had series of such complaints and concerns from people, I felt that it was very, very necessary to discuss this on the radio and on the air, and so that those that haven't had the opportunity to talk to me one-on-one will hear and then be in a position to know how to move on from a relationship that has failed. Let us begin it this way. I want you to understand that moving on from a relationship that has formed part of your life is like asking yourself to stop existing. Yes, I have been there years back. I've been there years back when someone walks up to you and tells you, you know what, I don't think this thing is working. I don't think my mind is in it anymore. And maybe someone you have dated for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, for some reason feels it's time to move on without you. You see, it is hard to accept, my dear listeners. It is hard to imagine that it is happening to you equally. It is also hard to imagine that it has happened to you. It is a different thing to imagine that it is happening. That means it's still in the process. And it's equally a different thing to now begin to imagine that you have been a victim of a failed relationship. You see? It looks like a dream, yet it is real. Real in the sense that a loved one, it could be a marriage of some weeks, it could be a marriage of some months, or even a marriage of some years, that have just abandoned you and moved on. Also real is that he or she has moved on and having less to think about you. Like I said, it could be a marriage, it could be a love relationship that you are cutting and dating and hoping that in a year's time, in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, in 6 months' time, that you were going to get married to each other. And of course, it is also real that you have refused to accept that this is the reality staring you in the face. Yes, it may be hard to take, but that is the case. What is the case here? The case is that someone had walked out on you. That husband has said he is no longer interested. Or the woman has simply said, I am fed up. This is where my journey with you terminates. That is the reality. And while you are trying to come to terms with the reality of the fact that a relationship of some weeks or months or years had just ended, The big question that keeps coming back in your mind and coming back, staring at you, hitting your mind, making you restless, uncomfortable, wanting to commit suicide to some, wanting to, to do some funny and silly things. You keep asking yourself, how do I let go this relationship? The truth is that, in as much as they say it takes two to tango, in breaking up, one person can just let loose the relationship and move on. Because the fact of the matter in a relationship is that you cannot tie rope around someone's neck and said you must stick and stay in this relationship. And you keep asking yourself, is it real? Is it true that I will stop being the wife of this man? Is it true that, this woman had actually walked out on me? Is it true that she will stop being my wife? You begin to ask yourself those questions. You ask yourself questions that to you looks like a drama, that looks like some kind of movie thing you are watching on television. But you are actually the victim here. Victim of someone who had been abandoned in a relationship. Victim of someone who woke up one morning and realized that he is alone or she is alone, and the person that used to warm your bed with you is no longer there. You wake up to the obvious reality that you are now yourself and yourself alone. Hear me. It is much easier to let go. Of course, if you have other things going for you that can take your attention away for a while. For instance, if you've got a good job, or you've got good supportive friends, or you have relatives that are handy and helpful and supportive to kind of smoothing the ache and help you go through the process and help you to kind of sob through the internal feeling and depression you are going through. All of this will help fill the emptiness created when that person you have so much planted somewhere in your heart is taken away from you. Like I said, it is very, very difficult to accept. Mostly difficult if the circumstance leading to the breakup of that relationship is caused by another person. A third party that stepped into the relationship, hijacked it, and your wife no longer feel you were worth being her husband anymore. Or your husband no longer felt that you were worth being the wife any longer because somebody suddenly stepped into the relationship, making one party look ordinary, look unimportant, look not needed and wanted in the relationship. It is most hurtful when someone is responsible for that. But whether someone is responsible for it or is something for personal reasons the man feels or the woman feels that it was not worth it any longer staying in the relationship, the obvious reality there is that you have to find a way to move on and be yourself somehow. The wish of every human being, irrespective of your race, your religious affiliation, your beliefs, whatever, whether traditional or modern, the wish of every sane, responsible, complete human being is to get into a relationship that will stick and stay and remain for good. Unfortunately, if wishes were horses, people will say, even the beggar will ride a horse. You see? And so, that we will wish, everyone will wish that he or she stays with the spouse till God calls them. But that is just a mere wish. It doesn't always happen like that in every marriage, sadly, unfortunately. But if you have become a victim of a separation, of a split in a marriage or in a relationship, the solution is not by going ahead to hurt yourself, take your life, do some nasty, stupid, and foolish things. Like some may go to the extent of attempting to drink poison or commit suicide and all of that because someone else had walked out on him or her. I started by saying it is difficult to take. It is difficult to accept. Especially if you have gone into that relationship and the relationship had gotten into some distance and you are already cementing yourselves in the relationship, all of a sudden, bam, something happens. The whole thing comes crashing. I want to suggest a few things that can help you to let go that relationship and move on. Because the truth is, when a man wakes up and says, I no do again, to put it in our local English parlance, I no do again means I am not in it anymore. It means I am no longer interested in it anymore. And the worst of it is that some may not even tell you with the amount that they have already worked out, but they can show you by the way they are acting to you. They can show you by the way they conduct the relationship that both of you are involved in. So you may be waiting for when the man or the woman will come verbalizing it for you and telling you, you know what, it's over. Some may say it with their body language by not having a lot to do with you and all of that. But then when it happens, there is a life to still live with or without the other person. That is the reality of nature. That person moved on does not mean that your life should be on a standstill. That you should off your life and cease to exist. My dear listener, listen to this. In case you have been a victim, one, go through your house, go through where you reside, remove everything that will remind you of that person that has worked out on you. Things like pictures, things like maybe items he or she had bought for you and given to you before and all that as tokens of the relationship and love and all of that. These things are sad, very bitter reminders of the relationship you want to let go. Maybe I will rather call the topic today, close the chapter. Perhaps you may choose to say, close that chapter. Because when you don't close a chapter of something that is bitter, the bitterness lives with you and you will cease to be happy as long as the bitterness is present in your life. You see, that's why you need to close that chapter. Move on from that relationship and try to make yourself happy. Like I said, remove everything that will be a constant reminder of that relationship that you are trying to forget about. It will not be easy also. But if you want to move on and move on very quickly away from that failed relationship, then you need to take some of these steps. Get out, get away, remove everything that will remind you of that person that had fallen out of relationship with you. That is the number one thing you need to do. Again, if, for example, you both lived together, in the case of those that were already married before they break up, one major thing you need to do is for the man now, a woman walks out of the house. The man, obviously, you will remain in your house and all of that. One thing you need to do and do quickly also is to rearrange For example, the arrangements, the furniture arrangement, the TV position, the dining arrangement, maybe the position of the kitchen, how things used to be at the kitchen, and all of that. And so that when next you walk into the house, possibly change curtains and all of that if you have the money to do that. Make your place of abode, make your house totally different from the way it used to be when that person that walked out on you used to be part of you in that house. You see? And of course, the most important of all is when you get into your bedroom must not look the way it used to look when you had your spouse. Remember, I'm referring to those that are married in this case now. Because if you are not married and you are living with a man together, the man has every right to wake up in the morning and kick you out. Because you are not his legitimate tenant or co-tenant, as the case may be, or because you were simply just wasting your time, and all of that. And so you don't even have any right to complain, because you handed and surrendered yourself completely to the man free of cost. And the man, obviously, after he feels he's had enough and now wants to move on, asks you to move out of the house. But for those that are married, you owe yourself some legal responsibility, and you share most things in common and all of that, including the bedroom. Meaning that when the woman walks away, for example, obviously the man, you retain your house and all of that. If you want to help yourself also, you need to rearrange the setting in your bedroom. Change the bed covers, change the curtains in the bedroom, reposition where the bed is, change the cupboard in the bedroom and all that. And if you have money, it will be mostly advisable for you to possibly even change your bed and all of that, to remove everything that reminds you of the woman that has just betrayed you by walking away from the marriage. You see? And so, when you do that, you'll be doing yourself a great favor. And then you will begin a new life. You begin to tread softly. And then all these things that will constantly remind you of him or her will no longer be there. And gradually, you will come to the sad reality that you are you, and you alone.